chapter 274 to 276. And the answer for the million Rio question is, who is supposedly sealed in the moon? Rei leadingly asked, and the whole group except Yuriko dropped their jaws on the floor when the realization hit them. You mean Kaguya? Konan finally managed to rein in her surprise. Maybe. Rei hummed. After all, a Jinchuriki can use the chakra of his Biju, and even if they are sealed in an inanimate item, the chakra can still be drawn. The limiting factor is that people never thought to make a technology capable of utilizing this chakra. Why wouldn't it be possible for Kaguya's energy to seep into the moon in small quantities? It would be prudent to make use of it, no? Moreover, Hamura was supposed to be the closest thing to the Sage of the Six Paths, and the guy lived on the moon. It wouldn't be weird if he got the idea and made a little something capable of doing exactly that. Wait, you want to tell me this residue of energy from this Kaguya is involuntarily releasing, is capable of instantly destroying the moon? Pakura made a face at Rei. And you want to free her? Are you barking mad? Mei, however, just rolled her eyes and replied before Rei could open his mouth. Paku-chan, the residue from each of us could do that if it had 1,000 years to build up. That made Pakura a bit more subdued. Mei's boil bloodlines steam. Jutsu worked mostly through the chakra residue a person is releasing at any given moment. Mei's bloodline was literally able to increase this released residue and shape it into the form of steam with various properties. Thanks to that, the group believed Mei's words instantly. She was the expert on that in the group. You would be surprised how much chakra seeps out of a person during the day, especially us. Since we became Jinchuriki, our bodies are bona fide chakra factories. If we didn't have enough chakra control to keep it in, we would be like a sun to any semi-competent sensor. But aren't we talking about nature energy here? Why would Kaguya's body release that? Tsunade crossed her arms under her chest and asked. She supposedly ate a chakra fruit. Considering there was no chakra people could freely manipulate before she was beaten by her sons. My bet is that chakra originates from nature energy of the planet gathered to form chakra fruit. That's my guess, Rei remarked. And since the chakra fruit is made out of the stuff, her body naturally releases it too. Konan nodded before shrugging. Well, could happen. Who knows? I think you are forgetting the main problem here. It might be important how this is possible, but I think we have more pressing matters to contemplate. Ringo reminded. There is a guy capable of dropping a moon on our home. I think that demands some very violent actions. Agreed. We will know the answer to these theoretical questions once we get the device capable of using the residue for the moon-dropping jutsu. Rei agreed, getting the attention of the others. You want to do what? Konan turned towards Rei. Do you at least know how many enemies are there and where exactly they are located? Rei turned towards Yuriko, who smiled. I am stationed here a few months already, and there was no contact with anybody. Rei made sure the first thing we installed were seals blocking detection through any means he could imagine. She started, taking out a file with a few pictures. That said, when we discovered chakra under the surface, I was tasked with investigating. I used my snow-natured senjutsu and looked around a bit using snow in tandem with sensory jutsu. Naturally, I can't cover an entire planet, and I also had to make it unnoticeable, so there was that, but... Yuriko triumphantly slid the file towards Konan, who opened it and raised an eyebrow at a picture of a cave? She asked. An entrance, Yuriko corrected. I found this by a complete coincidence. One nice day, I got a signal from my fine powder-like snow sparsely covering the ground around one area that somebody stepped on it, which was weird, considering there isn't supposed to be anybody on the moon. She chuckled. Imagine my surprise when I saw puppets walk around carrying supplies before disappearing into the cave. I didn't enter, but I know the puppets didn't leave either until 2 weeks later, and they returned in 3 hours with a new batch of supplies. Puppets. Pakura pursed her lips. And you didn't see any puppeteer nearby? When Yuriko shook her head, Pakura's eyes slightly widened. Suna puppeteers tried for a long time to create a jutsu capable of remotely controlling puppets. Even Sasori mostly failed in that endeavor, deciding to be satisfied with controlling 100 puppets via 100 chakra strings. Unfortunately, Pakura was not a puppeteer, so she could not help much in that regard, but Shunriku was making some progress. Needless to say, a technology capable of remotely controlling puppets was very interesting for Pakura. Clearly, whoever lives there is very advanced in some fields. Getting from the moon to our planet, since I doubt the puppets found these supplies on the moon, is also no small feat, Conan reasoned. We should probably assume the residents are fairly strong when it comes to chakra manipulation with a completely different jutsu than what we are used to. The group nodded. Being a ninja could be surprising, but stereotypes were a thing. One sees a Kiri ninja, he instantly prepares for hiding in the mist technique. Every single Kiri ninja knew and most used that technique to a great effect. One sees a Suna ninja without a war fan. He instantly assumes they are a puppeteer. It might not be always true, but puppetry is deadly enough to rather be prepared than be caught off guard. The residents of the moon, however, had millennia to develop their jutsu differently, which was noticeable from their advanced knowledge of puppetry. On top of that, it was plainly obvious they had a way to get supplies from the elemental nations, which meant they might have some knowledge of the jutsus from hidden villages too. In short, the group quickly assumed the enemy knew most of the widely known jutsu while having a totally unknown repertory of their unique techniques. The group became silent in contemplation. They had an advantage because the jutsus most of them used were in no way widely known. That evened the playing field a bit, but still, there is no point in this. Tsunade sighed. We can't scout because we have to assume it will be discovered. Really, we have our biju that are already matured and ready to go. If anything, we can use them to run away. Conan chuckled. Looks like we became quite cocky, she said in a self-reproachful manner. I still remember times when I was young and weak. We had almost no intel before most of our missions. She looked at Ray, who smiled in nostalgia. Yet, here we are, contemplating and worrying about what-ifs because of no reliable intel. I think we will simply have to wing it as ordinary ninjas do. The group smiled at that, remembering their early days. Whether they were from Suna, Kiri, or Konoha, being a ninja was almost the same. Everybody had a memory of at least one mission, where they had no idea what they were getting into, yet they had to go. So, when do we start? Tsunade asked. I think you misunderstood. There is no we in this operation, Ray said, causing the women to show discontent expressions. It was obvious they wanted to argue about it, but Ray had already decided. After all, he knew there would be only one man waiting for him, and he really wanted to see how he compared to him. For this, I am going alone. Ray stood in front of the entrance to the cave Yuriko found, painfully aware of the paper with a multi-purpose surveillance seal inscribed on it, through which his girls watched his every move. What the hell possessed me to say those words? He awkwardly thought. Needless to mention, when he said, For this, I am going alone. To his wives, all hell broke loose. In hindsight, that was a really stupid move, as Ray found himself outnumbered 5-1, and those odds were a bit too much even for him. But he was stubborn too, and didn't just back down no matter how many puppy eyes, narrowed gazes, upturned lips, or outright ultimatums he got from his wives. In the end, Ray made a compromise that he would wear one of Conan's papers with surveillance and teleportation seals while he went in. He could do that much. He could understand their worries after all. They thought he was going to face an army, yet he knew there was just one guy and his puppets. Then again, he had no plausible explanation for how he knew that. Here we go, Ray muttered before slowly walking towards the entrance, with his senses looking for any early alarm system that could be present. Finding nothing, His cautiousness only increased, as it could mean only two things. Either there was really no alarm system, which could be possible. After all, who would expect intruders while having a base on the moon? Or it was hidden so well even Ray was unable to find it. The second option was in no way sounding appealing to Ray, though. Ray had no idea what he expected to see inside, but a plain cave was definitely not among what he pictured. He raised an eyebrow. So, they do have at least some security measures up, huh? He mused while looking around the completely normal small cave that ended with a dead end. It took him a few seconds, but thanks to his sensory abilities, Ray quickly noticed a small concentration of chakra near the back of the cave. Nevertheless, Ray was impressed as he barely noticed it. As expected from the predecessor of the Hyuga clan, he quipped with a smile while placing his palm on the rocky wall, pushing some chakra through it towards the seal he felt located behind the said wall. Something interesting? Conan's voice suddenly sounded in Ray's head, making him slightly jump. They did not use telepathy much, preferring to talk aloud, so this wasn't something Ray was used to. Yet, they could talk telepathically, and being in contact was one of the conditions his wives placed on him if he wanted to go alone. This is a chakra insulator. It blocks and disrupts chakra flow, Ray answered. Byakugan, Sharingan, normal chakra sensors. They wouldn't be able to find anything out of ordinary about this cave, simply because there is nothing out of ordinary to sense, as far as chakra-based sensing can tell you. It's quite a nifty trick. Be a dear, Conan, and do put this idea down on paper. We might use it for ourselves somewhere. Ray mentally sent Conan his thoughts on how the wall worked, making her go quiet while sending him an impression of agreement. Ray's chakra finally reached the lock behind the wall, causing the floor nearby to slide away, revealing steps leading further into a dark hidden entrance. One gotta be grateful for night vision no jutsu. Ray mentally chuckled before bravely but calmly walking down. As Ray finally approached the end of the stairs, he was again pleasantly surprised that nothing attacked him yet. He was also shocked that there were no traps awaiting him. He could only shake his head at the sheer arrogance displayed in front of him. Sure, he believed in the superiority of his village and that nobody would ever discover it, but that didn't mean he didn't trap the surroundings to all hell and back. If somebody not of his village did discover the area around his village, Ray made his damnedest to ensure they would not return alive to tell the tale. That was called taking precautions. Just in case. Because such a case could possibly happen, no matter how small of a chance there was. Did you try nature energy sensing? There might have been different defensive systems, Tsunade advised. Ray's wives mostly watched, deciding not to talk to him overly much because it could prove distracting. Only when something important came up did they contact him. Ray was glad about that. In this particular case, however, I am using only nature energy sensing, Tsunade. Chakra sensing is useless down here. It seems the entire tunnel is made from chakra-blocking material. Could we mine it and use it to create weapons? Ringo asked excitedly. Hey, it's not as strong as you probably think, Ringo. You will see when I am done here. Ray replied, Now shush. He was about to leave the tunnel. What greeted him in the light at the end of the tunnel was marvelous. A large, spacious underground place filled with a massive castle. It was one of the most amazing underground structures Ray ever saw, and he indeed made sure to look closely while taking mental notes. The building made him feel quite small, considering how massive it was. Ray could feel a headache creeping up onto him as he imagined the absolute pain in the ass navigating in the building will be. And that was before he even added all the enemy forces into the equation. There was no doubt a fight would ensue, and this nice marvel would be somewhat demolished. Ray, however, wanted to make use of all resources found here, so there was no reason to rush. He could take his time noting everything important. On the other hand, he could also finally feel movement in the castle through his sensory abilities. It was obvious the second he entered the castle, the shitstorm would start. Then again, It is quite curious they still have no clue about my presence. I wonder... Ray stopped cloaking his chakra with his passive stealth seal tattooed on his back. He could instantly feel the puppets inside of the castle snap their heads towards his direction, some of them having their heads turned at angles that would kill a normal human. I guess that is my answer. His sightseeing cut short. Ray, with a wry smile, stepped closer towards the entrance to the castle and tried to kick it open only for ripping the door out and sending it flying back, crushing 3 puppets about to open it. Ray awkwardly waved at the remaining 2 puppets. Hey? That was totally unintentional. He disarmingly smiled, and the puppets rushed at him. Oh well, that didn't seem to work, Ray thought as he sidestepped a woman-looking puppet lounging at him. The puppet was not done yet, though. It twisted at its waist by a complete 180 and tried to land a strike on Ray with a sharp blade popping out of its hand. Ray's eyebrows twitched. This was why puppets were dangerous. They could make sudden, unexpected movements that no human could manage, except maybe Orochimaru. You expect that you dodged its hit only for it to twist into a painfully looking position and strike again. Unfortunately for the puppets, Ray was not an average ninja. He quickly spun and grabbed the wrist of the second puppet that tried to stealthily hit him in the back with a sword, letting the momentum of the spin carry both him and his newly captured puppet. Ray then used it as a club to smash away the first puppet, whose blade was just an inch away from Ray's belly. The 2 puppets flew away, hitting a wall before crumbling down onto the floor. A second later, a searingly hot fireball engulfed them, incinerating them to ashes. Huh. Looks like they are still made of wood, Ray hummed, pleased at the effectivity of his fireball. The puppets had no strings, so Ray did not believe such a weak strike would be enough to make them stop. Who would expect puppets to show cunningness? He shook his head, turning around about to continue on his merry way, only to freeze at the sight that greeted him. From all around, thousands of painted wooden eyes watched his movements. The puppets and Ray awkwardly stared at each other for a while. When Ray decided to attract the attention of the puppets, he did so because he knew he could handle it, and this way, he wouldn't have to look through the unknown structure in order to round up all enemy combatants. Now they would come to him. Despite such thinking, Ray was still astonished at the sheer number of puppets present in the initial wave. There must be a lot more puppets than I predicted, Ray offhandedly thought without any worry. After all, be it 1,000 or even 1,000,000 of average ninjas, in front of Biju they were all just a slight nuisance. These puppets might be a bit stronger than normal Chunins from what he saw so far, but there was no threat of fuinjutsu. And since they were puppets, even unexpected ninjutsu was not likely to appear during the fight. At Ray's current level, this was honestly nothing worrisome. The puppets had apparently enough of the staring contest as they as one jumped toward Ray, intending to swarm him with their numbers. Seeing the wall of wooden bodies approaching him at high speed, Ray inwardly sighed before slowly unsheathing his sword. In an instant, an electrical current sparked to life on the edge of the said blade, and with one fluid movement, Ray jumped backward, away from the entrance to the castle. The door he kicked away was quite massive, and as such, many of the puppets would be able to pass through. But on the other hand, the entrance was also a nice choke point. Ray swung his blade, sending a crescent-like cutting edge made of lightning element at the approaching puppets that were about to pass through the entrance, and therefore were very densely concentrated in one area. The elemental attack made short work of any puppet it passed through, decimating quite a sizable number of them at once. And just as intended, the castle has more or less no scratch whatsoever either. Ray mentally hummed in satisfaction as he watched the smoking entrance. From what he could see through the smoke, some puppets clearly survived the attack and were getting up, but most of these were in some way damaged. It was then a sound of breaking glass attracted Ray's attention upwards, causing him to widen his eyes and inwardly cringe at the damage caused to the windows of the castle as a multitude of puppets jumped through them, trying to surprise attack Ray. Stepping back, Ray swung his blade upwards, casting a lightning dragon jutsu on the blade at the same time and directing it with the swing above himself. The dragon, made of pure lightning chakra, coiled in the air, cutting and burning any puppet that landed onto its body, only dissipating when no more puppets jumped out of the windows. Thanks to the lightning dragon, no puppet landed in Ray's immediate vicinity, creating a small radius of the puppet-free zone around him. Such a show of skill would surely freeze Ray's attackers in fear, awe, or something else if they were humans, but unfortunately, puppets had no feelings, and as such, they didn't hesitate at all. Not even a second lasted after their landing, and they were yet again leaping at Ray, while surrounding him with a volley of yellow balls they sent at him. Ray didn't remember what these balls were supposed to do from the anime. That said, he was not about to find out by letting them hit him. Tapping his feet on the ground, he imbued his chakra into it and made it rise into a rocky shield all around him, enhancing it mostly from inside with his chakra to prevent the rock from being sent at him as splinters. He had a nasty feeling the balls were some kind of bomb. Ray didn't even manage to finish that thought when a loud booming sound reached him as his rocky shield shook, showing some minuscule cracks. Now that created a frown on Ray's lips. It wasn't really that threatening to him, but he reckoned this army of puppets would be able to take down most forces of a hidden village back home if they attacked it head-on. They certainly had enough firepower if their concentrated attacks could create cracks on rock enhanced with his chakra while he put some effort into it. Sighing, Ray made his chakra in the rock erupt towards the outside, sending his rocky shield back at the puppets as dangerous shrapnel, tearing through their wooden bodies, again creating a safe zone all around the motionless Ray. With the time for gauging the enemy's power over, Ray decided to move first as he channeled lightning chakra through his body. Blurring towards the spot with three puppets standing close to each other, he appeared in front of them, already swinging his sword, bisecting all three of them at the waist before they could react. Ray knew being bisected would not hinder puppets as much as it would humans, so he made sure to pump his lightning chakra through the puppet the second his blade entered it, frying all internal mechanisms responsible for the movement of the chunks of wood. These three puppets would not be getting up anytime soon. Ray didn't have a lot of time to celebrate, though. With his enhanced nervous system, he easily noticed three yellow balls of energy flying at him, causing him to jump upwards, evading them as they exploded. The air was no safe zone either, however, and Ray found himself under the fire of yet more puppets. Spinning in the air, Ray created a ball of spinning lightning chakra around himself, letting the yellow energy balls explode on it. Not unlike Chiton of the Hyuga clan, the spinning lightning chakra redirected the explosive energy away from Ray, shielding him. As Ray landed, he huffed, "So, they would fire at me even if I was near their allies, huh? Guess the puppets are expendable enough for that," he realized. "Don't forget to leave some unfried for research purposes," Pakura telepathically reminded him, her voice somewhat worried. Not for him. She was worried for the puppets. After being fried from inside out, they had no worth to her. Chuckling to himself, Ray sent her an understanding feeling before springing into action again, evading yet another volley of yellow exploding balls from the puppets. Clearly, they realized I am a dangerous foe up close and decided to focus on ranged attacks. Ray realized that the puppets had some basic intelligence if they could do such a thing. Looking at the thousands of puppets all around him, Ray wryly smiled. "This will take a while, won't it?" "Well, it's not as if you didn't need the exercise, is it?" Conan's smirking voice resounded in his head. Ray rolled his eyes and increased the amount of lightning chakra coursing through his blade. Yes, laugh it up, woman," he grumbled before jumping back into the fray.